morning, Grinders. Welcome to the DFS pregame show here on a pregame show. Welcome to RotoGrinders Today. Forgot the change of the name, right? Forgot right now, right? I'm used to Mondays with Mccool, right? That's part of the DFS pregame show, but now we're just doing RotoGrinders Today. I'm Jordan Cooper, a.k.a. BlenderHD, if you want to follow me on Twitter, right? Mondays with Mccool. That's what we do. Monday, September 11th. James Mccool, the co-author, The Theory of Daily Fantasy Sports, How to Think Like a Professional DFS Player, 15-hour audio DFS masterclass at theoryofdfs.com, as well as his advanced tools and my advanced guide, how to apply profitable DFS strategies. You can pick that all up, theoryofdfs.com. Give me those thumbs ups in the chat. Hit that dummy thumb button. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell. Hit whatever you want. James, yesterday, NFL, week 1. Did you hit it?
I did not. No, I did the very opposite of it. Pretty bad week for me. I would have been okay had I gone with Tyreek Hill over Jamar Chase in cash, but
you didn't play Tyreek Hill in cash?
No. So
you don't really play much cash games anyway.
No. I mean, I'm playing it this year because I'm pretty good at them. I have a pretty good record over the last couple of years, but I thought that it was close enough between the two that I was fine with Jamar Chase since I already had Raheem Mostert in like the cash games, and like I didn't want to combine those two. I'm
assuming your running back slots were Raheem Mostert and Jamal Williams
and Alexander Madison. Yeah,
I also played Madison. Okay, because the two popular builds yesterday in cash games at least, and we'll talk about GPPs. Let me bring up. I didn't plan on necessarily talking about cash games. We have Results DB here at RotoGrinders, part of Fantasy Labs. We'll show off every Monday. That's our tool time. Results DB, and you can go to any of the main contests on DraftKings. This is only available for DraftKings because they have allowed CSV downloads. FanDuel doesn't. We do not currently have the $5 milli in Results DB. They're working on it because it's a 1.1 million entry contest, and apparently it's breaking our systems here. So I do have everything else up here, but if I look at the massive $25 double up, right, single entry double up, which is the largest contest, 68.96 entries, one entry only, $25 double up. We could see here that the chalk build, I mean, I'm assuming, James, you said you had Mostert and Williams. You had the Washington defense.
Yep.
You had Isaiah Likely.
Yep.
And it really came down to, if you tell me that you played Madison, that means you played the lineup where, did you play Marvin Mims or Jaden Reed?
So I had Marvin Mims initially. I did end up late swapping to save some equity.
Oh, okay. But what was it was in your original line?
He was in my original, yes. Okay,
so you basically played the Jefferson. Did you play the same lineup that I played in cash? Did you play 3? No, you couldn't have played 3 studs. So you essentially played the lineup that a lot of other people had Calvin Ridley in.
Right, but
you had the $6,500 Madison in the flex.
Right.
Because my lineup, I just did triples. What I wanted to do, James, I would have done better. Now, obviously, I made money in cash because the early weeks, like you can make a mistake and still make money.
Yeah.
Because the two most popular lineups were, it really all depended on who you played at quarterback. I'm assuming, James, you played Anthony Richardson at quarterback.
I played Herbert. Actually,
so my two options, because you had the money to go up just a little, but not all the way to Hurts.
Right.
So you just got stuck on a 2v2, just very similar to me. Yeah. You played the two most popular lineups, I think, and I mean, I'll look a little bit later after the show, was my lineup: Richardson, Mostert, Williams, 3 8K wide receivers, so Chase, Hill, and Jefferson.
Yeah,
likely Mims or Reed. And the Washington defense.
Right.
Other people, instead of playing Jefferson, went down to Ridley and then went up from Anthony Richardson to Hurts.
Right.
Also, some lineups with Sam Howell
Yep.
in a very similar configuration where maybe you went up a little bit more. But the thing that I wanted to do is I wanted to play my lineup, but instead of playing Chase and Mims, I was going to play Sutton and Kenny Walker.
Yeah.
Only because I look at these 3K receivers and I go, what's my rule of week 1, especially?
Right. Yeah. We don't.
Nobody knows anything. So
Yeah,
I'm like, I'm going to play a rookie guy that, Judy's out, but they called 2 people up. They got Philip Dorsett. They got like this guy has a floor of almost 0. Sutton is guaranteed. I mean, Sutton is a guarantee for the Broncos. And then Kenny Walker, it's like, okay, volume. Like, is he the greatest cash play? No. But I mean, it's like, okay, volume. But then I know Mims is going to be 1,000,000% owned. Some 3K receiver is. And I'm just like, I'm week 1. I'm just gonna block. I split a bunch of double ups and stuff like that. But I had Chase. I mean, in my aggregated projection, I had Chase clearly by like 1 point.
Yeah.
The lowest projected out of the three. Like Justin Jefferson 1, Tyreek Hill, and then Jamar Chase.
See, I had Justin Jefferson by a far 1. I had Justin Jefferson for 17.9. And then I had Tyreek Hill and Jamar Chase. For Tyreek Hill, a slight above at 16.77, and then Jamar Chase at 16.66.
Those seem like low means. I mean, our projections here had him, in the 20s.
Yeah, I don't think that I would have projected him in the 20s. But I mean, I'm always a little bit different. Like, you know that.
Okay.
Directionally, it always ends up being relatively
the same, right? Because you just scale it down.
Yeah. So the way I looked at it, I mostly just thought that having Mostert there, I was fine with going with Jamar Chase, especially because I had Jamar Chase for a little bit higher in terms of targets and a little bit higher in terms of receptions. So I figured that I would just go there. But I looked at it as basically a coin flip, and I just lost that coin flip based on my projections. So I don't mind that. Some people said that I should have gone with the one with the higher total. Sure, fair. It's fair. But I mean, as far as projections go, the projections already know the totals. And they know the counts and the baseline stats and everything like that. So I just thought it was a 50-50 that I lost. It's a really brutal 50-50 to lose 35 fantasy points. But yeah.
Yeah, that's a very big flip, right? I mean, 8 fantasy points or so, or versus 47. Like that'll kind of kill you especially when Tyreek Hill is 55% owned in double ups.
Well, and so what I ended up doing, like Tyreek Hill ended up crushing, obviously, but at the beginning, like as we were going into the late games, and this is a really important point to always hammer home, I knew that I was pretty much drawing dead going into the afternoon games, right? Like I had to start this slate. I had Jamal Williams, who only gave me 7. I had Justin Jefferson, who got me 27, sure, but he's like 1,000,000% owned, doesn't matter. I had Jamar Chase with 9, knowing that other people had Tyreek Hill. I had Isaiah Likely at 1.4, doesn't really matter, super high owned. And then I had the Commander's defense and Alexander Madison at 13. So
right, the main thing is the main thing that makes you swap is that you missed on the Ridley versus Madison flip, and Ridley was owned enough that even if you had Tyreek Hill in your lineup, it's quite possible that you would have swapped off of him.
Right. So with both of those things, with knowing that I had Jamar Chase versus Tyreek Hill, and like,
well, Tyreek Hill didn't go at that point.
No. But knowing that I had,
knowing that the rest of the field has Hill instead of Chase in that
right. Like knowing that I'm going to have some subset of opponents that are going to have Tyreek Hill, and probably a large subset of opponents that are going to have Tyreek Hill, and knowing that I'm already behind the 8 ball with Tyreek Hill having a median of around 17 and Jamar Chase finishing with 9. I knew that I had to late swap. So what I ended up doing was getting off of Raheem Mostert and Marvin Mims and swapping onto Khalil Herbert and Tutu Atwell. And now the Tutu
Atwell did fine.
That was fine. And Khalil Herbert basically scored the same as Mostert. So overall, like I ended up salvaging a little bit. Ended up down like, I don't know, about 50%. But I would have been down 100% had I not made that swap. So it's really important to understand what you're up against and think through. That's how you use late swap. You think about your equity and you think about what it's going to take for you to have your best outcome come through. And that's an important lesson to show. So cash games, not super great. But it is what it is. And then GPPs, I just got blanked, but that happens every week anyway.
Did you just single entry 3 max?
Yeah, I did three. I did 3 in the Wildcat and 3 in the World Championship qualifier. So
okay, because I primarily played the $5 milli this past week, but I made a toilet shitter lineup or whatever you call it. The hand build. I'm a hand builder.
Right.
I made a hand builder lineup. I made it the night before, and I didn't even change it. Right, but I was gonna play it. Basically, I played it in like a bunch of like I played it in like the $50 red zone all the way down, and I also played it in a bunch of like satellite tickets for like UFC contests, and they over like I looked 10 minutes before, and it's like 4 out of 19 or 6 out of 12, and I'm like, okay, this is that. A lot of people are going to be playing their cash lineups in these contests. Let me play my single entry lineup. This is what I played, and I was looking good. I was looking very good after the first set of games.
Yeah.
But not. I still cashed without Tyreek Hill, right? Or did I? No, I didn't even cash. I cashed in a whole bunch of other stuff,
right? But not this one. Yeah.
Not this one. But I didn't mind my. I didn't really mind. I mind my construction. I went down at running back, went up, but I mean, I was only going to play one AK receiver. Right. I wanted to focus on like the mid-range receiver. And with so many people playing Isaiah Likely, I'm like, why don't I just stack Isaiah Likely with Lamar Jackson and Zay Flowers?
Right.
And just do it that way. I don't need to play a bring back or anything. Just the Baltimore rolls. And then who has high ceilings in the mid-range? So it's like, give me Olave, give me Ridley. Yep. Right. Give me the Browns defense, because a lot of people may be playing Bengals stack or something like that. And this is a $2,600 defense, and the Commanders' $2,800 defense was going to be very high owned. And for the milli, this is a little slightly too chalky, I guess. Yeah. But I'm not playing the milli. So just like this is like this. If the $100 spy existed this week, I would have played this, and this would have been my spy lineup. It just ended up being my red zone lineup. So what did you do? I purposely said that, like, I'm not going to play Tyreek Hill in lineups that don't contain a stack of the Miami. Like I would need to have an Eckler or an Allen or Mike Williams or stuff in my. It would have to be a Herbert stack. It would have to be a Tua stack with a run back. So it's like the only guys from the game that was playing on their own were just the running backs.
Yeah.
So I was never going to play Tyreek Hill by himself in this lineup, and that's I would play Jefferson above him. If anything, or Chase Hill, I kept him mostly into stacks, and then of course it turns out that the only 2 players in the game that were worth a crap were Eckler and Hill. Anyway,
yeah, I ended up doing something similar. I had 3 lineups. I had a Cincinnati stack, I had a Baltimore stack, and I had a Charger stack. Which I didn't really when I was running through ownership and running the stack finder and the pivot finder and stuff like that. Miami was just a little bit too owned, and I liked the Charger side a little bit more. I was fine with Miami. I wrote up Miami for Fantasy Life, but I wanted to get away from them overall because I knew that the main person I wanted there was Tyreek Hill anyway. So why not just go with a Charger stack and bring back Tyreek Hill? So I did that, and then I was so far behind on that lineup to begin with that I had to get off Tyreek Hill and go to Jalen Waddle. So my Charger stack.
Who else was in that lineup from the early set of games?
So that I had J.K. Dobbins.
Okay, and he died.
Right? Life is hard. I had Jamal Williams.
And
Life's hard. And then I had Nico Collins and the Buccaneers defense. And Nico Collins was fine. Put up 14. And then I had Buccaneers defense, which put up 9. And that was fine. And what that lineup was Herbert with Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and Tyreek Hill. And then at tight end, I had Luke Musgrave.
Okay.
Which was fine. But then I had to get off of Tyreek Hill because I was already so far behind the 8 ball that I went on to Jalen Waddle. And then I went with an overstack on the Chargers and ended up going Allen, Williams, and Everett. Because I knew the only way this lineup was going to actually have any upside was if Herbert just went absolutely insane. So
and
adding
he
in
didn't,
Eckler
and
there.
then Eckler scored all the points.
Right. Yeah. Life's hard. But my Baltimore stack, I did something very similar to you. I decided that if Likely was going to be 35% owned, I'm just going to pair him from Lamar Jackson, who I liked anyway. I did not do a double stack, though. I just went with Jackson and Likely. And then I went with DeAndre, or I had Raheem Mostert and Rashad White in that lineup as running backs with Marvin Mims and Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. And I don't remember who I had instead of Sutton, but again, with late swap stuff, I got off of some $5,000 receiver and I did a 2v2 where I got onto Sutton and off of Mims and changed Mims to Atwell.
You can also take a look at a bunch of stuff in Results DB. You could get here at RotoGrinders.com as part of Fantasy Labs. So it's available here, RotoGrinders.com/ResultsDB. You take a look at the exposures. You can take a look at all the lineups and all the featured contests, the luxury box, the wildcat, the power sweep, the end zone, red zone, fair slant, the play action, everything. And what I like doing with this is, let's get off the double ups. Like, of course, typically we'll have the milli loaded in. But I just use the play action because it's 198,000 entries. I like seeing the difference between low stakes, big field ownership versus the smaller versus the mid-size, right? We have the $100 milli, 28,000 entries, and then like the 4444 milli, the mega milli, 768 entries, just to show how ownership condenses. And also, this is a tool to show that obviously as you go up in stakes and the smaller the field, the better the users are, right? And if you want to judge your play, like, oh, I had a lot of this guy. Like, typically the large fields, low stakes, are way more inefficient on like the better projected players than in the smaller field high stakes, where pretty much everyone playing the mega milli has some type of projections. They're going by projections and ownership. They have their own information, or they're using the information here at RotoGrinders. So then they're not missing on those things. So we take a look at just like running back, for example. Like I'm gonna filter by running back, so you could see that from the highest stakes, the highest owned running backs like Mostert and Williams were like Mostert 34 in the mega, 23 in the $100 milli, and 17 in the play action.
Yep.
I actually had Mostert projected higher than 17, and I still got a lot of them. So like, I'm comparing how I played versus kind of the field. So like Jamal Williams, 26 in the mega, 18 in the 100, and in the play action he was 15. So not as big of a drop off. But we take a look at someone like J.K. Dobbins, and I don't want to pick on James.
We're sad about it. We are sad about it.
J.K. Dobbins, 12% in the play action. J.K. Dobbins, 8.9% in the $100 contest. And J.K. Dobbins in the mega was 5.3.
So let me defend myself here really quick, because you said you weren't going to pick on me.
Right. I said I wasn't going to pick on you, but typically when it skews the other way, that now obviously your argument could be that since you knew that more of the bad players in the large field were playing Dobbins, that he would go under-owned in the small field contest.
That's not my argument. I noted, because I didn't have him projected all that well. I noted in my article, I said, I have some interest in J.K. Dobbins, although he does not project especially well, simply because of the rushing touchdown expectation for Baltimore. It wasn't necessarily that I thought that J.K. Dobbins was an incredible play. I didn't have him projected all that well, but I thought the rushing touchdown equity was very high for a team as a large home favorite up against Houston. So that was more of like if we're using the intuitive model and like a very basic idea of like where we should be targeting running backs. nobody knows anything about running backs early. I pretty much just mix and match that 5K range, and J.K. Dobbins ended up.
No, I agree. The variance at the running back position is very touchdown dependent. Yeah. So, like, we take a look at Mixon, 10.6 in the play action, Mixon 10.1 in the $100, and Mixon 10 in the 4 mega. So, like, it's like there was not that much efficiency difference. If we go to like wide receiver, right? Go to wide receiver. So let's take a look at like someone like Calvin Ridley. 16% in the play action, 19% in the 100, and in the mega, he was 19 also. I bumped up his ownership because, I mean, if we take a look at just the play action, he was the third highest owned receiver on the slate. So when I was playing building my lineups for the Millie, I bumped up his ownership because I think people were underestimating how many people wanted to play Calvin Ridley. But look, we take a look at Mike Williams, on the other hand. Mike Williams came in at 16% in the play action, 18% in the $100 contest, the $100 Millie. The mega, he was 21%.
Seems like a lot owned. Yeah.
He was way high. He was much higher owned than projected.
Yeah, I only had him at 11%. I mean,
right,
yeah.
Right. I had him at 12.
Yeah.
And the thing is that I had him at 12%, based on my runs of lineups, I got more of him because he probably should have been 16 to 18%. And you know what? He actually came in at 16 to 18%. Right? It's one of those things. A player that I was high on that maybe isn't a thing anymore is Christian Kirk. Only because I was adjusting Jaguars ownership for Ridley to bump up. So Kirk projected well enough that with his leverage, like Christian Kirk in the play action was 8.8%. Christian Kirk 8.1 in the $100 Millie. And Christian Kirk 7.4. So, I mean, not much difference between. But I mean, I had Christian Kirk projected around 8% owned, projected owned. I'd Ridley projected for like 18 to 20% owned. And I thought the difference between the two, one shouldn't be twice as owned as the other. Because why? We don't know anything.
Right.
And, you know, the thing is, James, next week when the Jaguars play and Ridley is 1,000 more and Christian Kirk's price didn't move, I may be playing Christian Kirk next week because you know me, week 2 is my favorite week of the year.
Yeah, that's your bread and butter. That's your bread and butter specifically.
Well, weeks 2, 3, 4, like those, when people see very small sample sizes and go, you know, Calvin Ridley only got bumped up to 6,900. He has a set like Zay Flowers, 45% target share. He's going to be like 5,200.
Yeah.
And people are going to just rush to play him. And then I'm going to look at $4,500 Rashad Bateman and go, let me take a chance on this. Just in case.
I'll tell you what's going to happen. He's going to have that. And then Mark Andrews is going to come back and people are going to say, oh, Mark Andrews is back. He's going to go way down. And he's not going to be owned at all after having a 45%.
Zay Flowers. Now, that effect will be made up by the recency bias people.
Oh, that's true.
Right. So like, even if Andrews is back and it's like, oh, well, he's not going to get a 45% target share. There's still tons of people that don't even care that Andrews is back or not. And they look at the game log and go, Zay Flowers, let me eat. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I was early on it and I wasn't able to capitalize, but I'd more Zay Flowers than I did of the 3K receivers. Dude, if you built lineups for like mass multi-entry lineups and you built without like rules, like one of the first rules that I put in was in lineup HQ, I went into a custom setting. I didn't want to make a group of these people. I just went in. I don't want a single wide receiver or tight end. No more than one under 4,000.
Yeah, that was
if you kept on building, you'd get Mims Reed lineups, Mims Musgraves lineups, Atwell. You'd get these barbell lineups where you're playing like Eckler, Hill, Chase, like all these types of barbell type of lineups. And I'm like people, these lineups are going to be played too much.
Yeah.
And these 3K guys, who knows what the hell their ceilings are? Who knows what their floors are? Who knows what any of these things are? So it's like, nope, just limit one. Yeah, sure, I'll take a shot on one of them per lineup, but I wanted to focus on the mid-range players. And another one that, dude, do we have James?
Yeah.
How do you handle that? I'm gonna. There's one guy in the NFL that I'm not sure if projection systems can handle. Right, and maybe you handle him better, but a lot of others don't.
Yeah.
Right, and I don't know if it's better or worse. It's just that by the numbers on the surface, you would project this guy for X, and then you actually like watch the games and go, how are the inputs cannot possibly be right when you watch this team play, and then you try to adjust for that the next week, and he still projects well, and then you watch this team play, and you go, in theory, this is the mean. But like, do you know what player I'm talking about?
It's Kyle Pitts.
Oh well, you're close. You're very close. You're on the right team.
Is it Drake London?
Yes.
Yeah.
How do you project someone that legitimately has like a 30 to 35% target share for a team that it's like theoretically it makes no sense to project the team to have that few pass attempts, and on the pass attempts they have to have the pass attempts be so short?
Well, first off, you can certainly project it with them being quote unquote bad. Where did I have Drake London? I had Drake London projected for 11, which is not bad, all things considered. But when it comes to his target share, let me find his actual stats here. Okay, so Drake London, I had for 7.28 targets and only 4.4 catches.
Okay, with an 8 out of what? I mean, his 8 out is decent.
Right, for 50 yards total.
Right, so there you go. Right.
I don't know how you're supposed to project
but that's what I'm saying. You're putting it in that way also. I mean, that's exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
Like he gets 7 targets, only catches 4 of them. He gets 50 yards, and then you watch the game and you go, Desmond Ridder cannot throw the ball more than 4 yards. And they're only going to pass the ball 18 times. And you go, well, in theory, because the thing is, James, is that if you run like a simulation of the game, there are tons of game scripts where they have to throw the ball. They literally have to throw
That's
the ball.
The thing, though. Arthur Smith does not care. Arthur Smith legitimately does not care about game state. Like, the guy is consistently just really low on pass per attempts over expectation. Like, he basically breaks the entire table when it comes to stuff like that. It's just,
and they win. They won. Like they don't care.
And they win.
Won.
Yeah, and they win, and because he doesn't. I think that people get mad and say, "Well, this player is so much better than this player, and this player is," like people were mad that Tyler Algier was getting carries in the red zone or whatever, getting touchdowns, and people are always mad that Kyle Pitts is blocking instead of running routes, and people are mad that Drake London doesn't have like these flashy stat lines, and these are really good players, but we say every single year that running backs don't matter. So why do we say that Bijan Robinson matters so much more than every other running back? We say every single year the tight ends who get opportunity typically are going to be able to produce with the opportunity. Why is Kyle Pitts some massive exception to that rule? I think what it comes down to is that Arthur Smith looks at these players, and I'm not trying to make Arthur Smith a genius here, but like I have to assume that the way that he looks at it is, I have all of these different players that I can use in all of these different ways, and I'm going to use them based on when they're fresh and when their legs are fresh and just do the things that make the most sense to try to win the game rather than get the players the ball. But like I saw on Twitter, I think it's Chris Towers said it on Twitter. He was like, okay, I'm willing to accept that Arthur Smith would rather win games than get fantasy points, but he has to win games. Like if they don't win like 10 games this year with the strategy of using every player on the roster, like if that's his win condition is that he wants to keep guys fresh and utilize them in different ways that are not planned by the opponent. Because like the opponent thinks that he's going to use Bijan Robinson constantly because it's a first round pick. But then he doesn't. And it's like, okay, maybe that trips up the opponent. I don't know. If his win condition is to keep things different, then that has to produce enough wins to get into the postseason. So if it doesn't do that, then what's the point? You know, it's such a weird thing to think through and deal with.
So Drake London was 7.5% in the play action. He was 8% in the $100 milli. And he was 6% in the Mega Millionaire. So not that big of a difference between the contests, right, in general. Right? Kendrick Bourne, another one. I had a bunch of Kendrick Bourne in my lineups, but too bad he was mostly in my Jalen Hurts lineups. Right. Bourne was 7.9 in the Mega. Bourne was 5.6 in the $100 one. And Bourne, where's Bourne? Bourne, I can't even find him in the play action. Bourne. 2.5% in the play action. But these are the players I project for the large field stuff. So like, yeah, I had Kendrick Bourne at like projected to be 2% owned. Hence why I played a bunch of them. But of course, I played a bunch of Drake London also with his 0, so that didn't matter.
For what it's worth, I just ran my contest sim on small field stuff, and I had Mike Williams at efficient ownership at about 26%. So about right for where he came in that like larger stuff.
Right. But this is the type of stuff that you should be looking at. If you're watching right now, hit that thumbs up button. You go to Results DB, it's free, right? You don't have to pay for this at RotoGrinders. You could just go to Results DB.
Super valuable.
Super valuable. And you could look through and compare different content. Download your CSVs, obviously. We even have a tool in Theory of DFS where you could have a Results DB like experience with your own contests and CSVs, and you could explore other people's lineups, other people's sets of lineups very similarly. So you can go get that in the Advanced Players course with the custom Excel tools, theoryofdfs.com. It does a couple of things that Results DB doesn't, although it may not look as pretty as Results DB because it's in Excel. But I mean, I use both. Every week I look at this. I download CSVs all the time, so you could look through exposures of certain players, certain lineups. You could look different stacks, duplicate lineups. I mean, look. I mean, we could look at the play action. I mean, you could see here. Imagine playing a lineup in that large field of a contest on a 13-game slate and be duped 62 times, right? Right. I mean, take a look at. Some of these lineups you look at and you go, how are they duped?
Right.
You take a look at Herbert, Eckler, Khalil Herbert, Hill, Olave, Godwin, Hayden Hurst, Marvin Mims, Washington defense, and that was duped 46 times.
I mean, you got to think that's like somebody. Oh no, that's 45 users.
45 different users, right? Like if it just used like this one, 2. Right. Obviously, one person put 39 entries in or something of the same line. I mean, same type of lineup, and that's it. I mean, these are the lineups that are seeding equity to you. Right. I mean, I don't want to embarrass anyone, but I mean, we could go to the Mega Millionaire, and let's see. I mean, are there any duplicates here? Yeah, there technically are, right? 2. I mean, this isn't as bad in the 444 with 768 entries. But I mean, in the large field stuff, I mean, some of these is just because you're jamming in the chalk with But I mean, like, take a look at the Trevor Lawrence lineup, right? Lawrence, Christian Kirk, Ridley, right? Jamal Williams, Justin Jefferson, Mostert, likely Washington defense.
That lineup
Aaron
is
Jones.
sick, though. Outside of the Washington defense, like that lineup is sick.
But I'm saying it's chalk city. Other than like Christian Kirk as part of the stack, Aaron Jones was owned. Even over here.
But with a lineup like that, like all you have to do is just get off the Washington defense.
Right, exactly.
That's fine.
Right. You could also take a look at like correlations, team stacks, game stacks. How often were multiple? Brian Robin, in the play action, the most owned combination of player was Brian Robinson and the Washington defense.
Look at that correlation.
3.5% of all lineups in the play action played both together. Mostert Hill was number 2. Lawrence, and then obviously the stacks like Lawrence Ridley. So the most owned stacks from a combinatorial standpoint were actually Lawrence Ridley and Cousins Jefferson.
I'm amazed by that, actually.
Right, rather than, and Tua Hill is lower. Herbert Williams was higher than Herbert Allen. You could even look at the game stacks in total. Game stacks include like secondary correlations as well. Mm-hmm. So one guy from one side and one guy from the other side. Rachaad White and Justin Jefferson. Right? Austin Eckler, Tyreek Hill was number 2. Right? As far as game stacks are concerned. Right? So you could do this. You could look at all that. You could obviously look at the leaderboard. You could look at lineups. You could look at everything. There's live scoring during the games. I mean, assuming that we've uploaded them. You could compare exposures to, top players, right? See what types of lineups they played. That's Results DB. Go there, RotoGrinders.com. Donnie Watson in the chat is asking for what the difference in Rachaad White in those contests. You know what I would say to Donnie Watson? That Results DB is free. You could just go and look. Right? I mean, I could show here. I mean,
just answer the question. It's a YouTube comment. Just answer the question.
Yeah, but James, after someone asks, it's like, I'm pitching. This is free. You can go there and you can compare anything you want. And someone's like, well, what's the difference?
And I hope that they do, and I hope they should, but answer the damn question.
Rachaad White. Let's find Rachaad White. So where's Rachaad White?
Well,
it's okay. I have to go to running back. Go to running back. Go to running back. Go to running back. Rachaad White in the play action, 9.6, 11.7 in the $100 milli, and 11% in the mega milli.
So
a little bit higher owned and higher stakes. Mm-hmm. Okay, Showdown tonight.
Yeah,
you got any takes? We got stuff here. We got obviously still need to wait. We got simulation stuff, simulation output that Gimino runs. Obviously, okay. We just Noto just came out with the grind down for Showdown. Right, all the Showdown stuff will come out. This afternoon. RotoGrinders.com for premium members. Click on that link in the description. Get $10 off your first month. It looks to be a decent Showdown slate. Only, I mean, from a perspective. Remember, I come from how many combinations of players can we make? Do you make any sense of what the hell what this Jets offense is going to look like?
Yeah, I mean, currently,
how do you project it?
It's mostly just going to be so right now I have Dalvin Cook and Breece Hall about a 60-30 split or so. But like that one, that's going to give you some equity depending on which side has higher ownership. Garrett Wilson is going to be obviously the guy. Followed by some amount of Alan Lazard with Conklin and Meccool Hardman and Randall Cobb. Like Randall Cobb was winning the slot job in the preseason, which is dumb. But it's mostly just going to be those first 4 guys: Aaron Rodgers, Garrett Wilson, Dalvin Cook, and Breece Hall. I'm trying to figure out which one of Dalvin Cook and Breece Hall is going to be the more valuable one in Showdown. Is going to be where you're making money on the New York Jets side for sure.
Is there anything in your model that if the player has played already at some point with Aaron Rodgers, You bumped up the projection by 20%?
No, absolutely not. Mostly just because, like, the players who have played with Aaron Rodgers, it's like Aaron Rodgers has always had one guy that he just goes into, right? Like, it's always been Devontae Adams, or it's been Donald Driver, or it's been Jordy Nelson. You know, like, we always have. Aaron Rodgers has always had a clear number one. And then it's like the other guys are just there. And
you think that's going to be Garrett Wilson, even though he's never played with them?
I think it has to be. Yeah. I mean,
look at the dust that's on their team. I mean,
right? Yeah. Like, who else is good enough to be the wide receiver one on that team? There's nobody. And Garrett Wilson, he's fine. He's good. So it should be, you know, you should expect Garrett Wilson to have something like a 30% target share here and 35% of the air yards. Like, anything less than that, I'd be really surprised.
How about the backfield for the Bills?
That's going to be really interesting. I have them pretty much splitting carries about 50-50, but with James Cook getting a significant amount of the targets for the team. I have him for 5 targets and just under 4 receptions. So when it comes down to it, I think that people are going to be much higher on James Cook, kind of similar to what we saw on the opening night showdown between Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. This one I think is a much more even split, where that one I think people were projecting David Montgomery to have a higher rushing share anyway. But here I think it'd be really interesting. I think people are going to be preferring James Cook by a considerable amount, but there's no reason why Damian Harris wouldn't get the goal line work. And goal line work can be very, very high equity in the same way that target share can be. So those guys, especially considering the price difference, it would make a lot more sense to have more exposure to Damian Harris if he is under-owned. Ownership projections matter a lot in Showdown, so I don't have those populated yet. My guess is that James Cook ends up somewhere around the 35 to 40% owned range, and Damian Harris somewhere in the 20 to 25%. So I would probably prefer to lean into the Harris side.
We also have props and pick 'em package here at RotoGrinders. The free pick of the day is one that I would agree with based on our projections. James Cook over 14.5 receiving yards. You could also look, I mean, obviously we have, you know, the props package. You could also look, we have statistical projections for NFL, for NBA, for MLB. So you could even look through, if we take a look here at James Cook, we take a look. Receiving yards, 21.65 on 2.44 receptions. Okay? That will equate at MGM right now, there's minus 120 on over 14.5 receiving yards. I believe FanDuel has already moved that to 17.5. Don't do over 17.5. You're not gonna get it. There's negative expected value on 17.5. The small, about a 5% edge. If you go by our projections at RG for 2.44 receptions and 21.65, if you simulated that out, because you need the receptions. Like, it's not one reception on 21 yards, right? It's 2 receptions. It's 3 receptions. It's 4. You need the receptions in there as well to determine your edge. And obviously, these are all means, which means they're going to skew positively, which means like 17.5 is no good. You're going to need more. You need more of a cushion there, because the median is actually going to be much lower than the mean. Because when James Cook puts up 80 receiving yards, that's well within his range of outcomes. That's going to skew that average so much higher. So simply going by means, you have to convert them to medians. So at 14.5 receiving yards, I still show at minus 120 BetMGM, there's about a 5 or so % edge there. And also baseball, we also have props and pick'em stuff. Cardi posts his stuff here. Keith, Charlie Wright, everyone, right? I'm just gonna flash it so you can. There'll be more posted there, right? If you look at our projections for Jordan Wicks, I believe, is that his first name, Jordan? Same name as me?
I think so. Yeah,
you believe so? Wicks, under 4.5 strikeouts, minus 120 on BetMGM. Charlie Wright has that up in our props and pick'em package. I checked with our projections. Our projections show, his mean strikeout rate. The bat has Wicks at 3.62 And I believe ours has it around the same. And that's on about 75 to 80 pitches. He's pitching in Colorado, which typically limits the number of strikeouts. I know that Colorado is one of the top strikeout teams in the league. But outside of Jordan Wicks throwing like 9 strikeouts in his first game, like he's not that type of pitcher. Like, I mean, he isn't, right? So do you have a K projection for Wicks?
I have not run baseball stuff yet. I'm running after the show today.
Because it's September, and who cares about baseball, right?
Well, I had NFL stuff to run. I had to take care of data pipelines for NFL first.
Right. But MLB still exists. We still have it's still going on today. So, James, where can people find you? I mean, obviously here every Monday, but outside of Mondays.
You can find me here every Mondays with Mccool. You can also find me over on Twitter, Pater_DFS. And then you can find all of my models and projections and everything like that at PaterDFS.com.
Right. And the same models that had Drake London with about as many points as our model.
Right. Yeah. That's the same models that are directionally accurate and have all the cool bells and whistles and everything too.
And as always, you could pick up both me and James created the Theory of Daily Fantasy Sports, 15-hour audio DFS masterclass if for the fundamentals. And then I have the advanced course with 10 more chapters of audio and all the Excel tools that James has created that I use on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. It's very click and cut and paste. It's not complicated. It's as long as you have Microsoft Excel, a decently recent version of it, you should be able to run all of these things. And that alongside the RotoGrinders projections and the ownership, you should be able to conceptually, build lineups that are plus EV. And that's what we're trying to do here, right? Trying to help you out in DFS, props, pick 'em, anything you want. Hit that thumbs up button on your way out the door. Hit the notification bell to know when we go live. We got Grinders Live later today for baseball. We got Showdown pre-lock show. We got tons of stuff here on the channel. And I'll see you tomorrow. I'm here Monday through Friday, 11 o'clock Eastern on RotoGrinders Today.